Hello everyone, welcome to this first episode in English of GemRuby Show. A silly name but a good French pun because as you can hear it, I am French. Today I am with Igor. Hello Igor, how are you?
Yeah, hi Lucas. I'm doing well, thank you. I hope that my English will also be good during this episode and everybody will be able to understand us. So let's do
Yes,
our best.
yes, let's do our best. Igor, do you want to introduce yourself briefly? Tell us who you are, where you're working at currently, and what you are working on.
Yeah, sure. Uh, Actually, I'm a Ruby on Rails engineer, a programmer, and besides being an engineer, I am a co-founder and CTO of Ruby consulting company called Jet Rockets, and our head
Okay,
office
super cool.
is in the United States, and most of our employees located in Georgia, Ukraine, Turkey. Some of them are in Europe.
A worldwide company. Super cool.
Yes.
So today with you, Igor, we're going to talk about open source software, generally speaking, and one of your gem that you have developed some years ago, Wiselink. Is this all right, Igor?
Yeah. I developed it actually. I'm currently looking at the GitHub, and I started working on it 11 years ago.
Before to come to open source, I would like to ask you about your gem. So when you develop a gem or a library or some code, there is a need at first. What was the need when you started this gem?
Okay, so first of all, let me explain that now it's archived and it's not used anymore. So we're just
Okay.
talking about some historic events now, okay? I just want everybody to understand us clearly. Let's go back to 2009 or 2010 and try to understand what happened in Rails world and actually in the web world these times, okay? Rails had a TurboLinks, which is now called just Turbo. I think they started to use it somewhere in Rails 4 or maybe in late releases of Rails 3, I don't remember exactly. And TurboLinks was a just tiny library that allowed you to load content with JavaScript and not to reload the whole page, just as it is now. But the only functionality they had was you add TurboLinks to your project and you are done. You don't need to do anything else. You don't need to define any parameters. You cannot configure it anyhow. You just add it and it works. Very simple. But still,
Indeed.
this approach had some problems. And the biggest problem was that you cannot just you couldn't disable TurboLinks completely. You had to disable it for each link on your web page.
Okay.
And besides this, TurboLinks couldn't work with forms. So if you had some form, like imagine you had a e-commerce solution and there is a filter on your product's listing, yes, and you wanted this filter also to work with JavaScript to get results that user filtered, that user selected with JavaScript, and TurboLinks didn't allow this.
Okay.
We had this project with some filters on a products listing page, and we wanted also to allow user to click submit button, to click search button, and to get results quickly without reloading the whole page. And this is how we decided to use the same approach as TurboLinks used, but to allow our library to work with forms and to solve this problem for us. And we created it, and it worked great. We implemented this in that project that we had. And after this, we decided, okay, if we already have a library that works with forms, and why not to extend it to some bigger functionality? And we started to implement different features, like compared to TurboLinks that had a let's call it blacklist of links on the page. We implemented in our library, we implemented another approach that I can call a whitelist. You only selected links that you wanted to work with JavaScript submit, and all other links left untouched. So
Okay.
we implemented the same functionality as in TurboLinks, but with completely different approach. And after this, we also created some content change detection, assets change detection when you release a new version of your application, when you deploy it, and your user continues to navigate over your site. We detected that a new version has been deployed, and instead of just continue to allow him to navigate with turbo approach, we reloaded the whole page so he could get the new version of assets. So just a small Rails and JavaScript libraries that help you to make sites faster, to give your users better feeling, better experience with your project.
So your aim was to do the same things as TurboLinks, but working with forms that TurboLinks didn't support at the time, and take the opposite approach of TurboLinks and only enable this dynamic reloading only for the links that you choose and not all the links by default.
Yes.
Okay, it's really clear. Thank you. My second question then is, when you develop your gem, you have your code, you say, oh, it works, super cool, super nice, but what makes you feel that you want to make open source?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I will answer that these times I was a bad open source committer, because when you have a working solution, when you understand that it works and maybe it will be used by the community, the best approach is, at least for me now, the best approach is to contribute to something existing. So these times when I created this library, the best approach would be to try to contribute to TurboLinks. I chose another way. I said to myself, okay, I have a library that works, and why not to start a new project and try to make it popular? And I actually made it popular. In its best, let's say, years, it had about 800 stars on GitHub, which is quite good 10 years ago, because because community was smaller,
Totally.
less projects, less users, less contributors. And I actually made it quite popular. You can still see stats on GitHub. It's used by a lot of other projects, so it gave me popularity, and it gave me an ability to actually speak on several conferences that were organized these years. But now I will say that it was a wrong approach. The best in this situation was to contribute to TurboLinks and try to make TurboLinks better compared to creating your own library.
You will say that maybe the best approach is not trying to redo and reinventing the wheel, but maybe just try to improve the tools that already exist. And if it's not existing, then you can create your new gem that is resolving an issue that has not been resolved before.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
This is the only approach and the best approach for community, for yourself. Not try to reinvent the wheel, the bicycle. Just make existing things better, existing libraries better.
Yeah, so we can be a better developer and a better community at the same time.
Yes.
It's really clear, thank you. And I think that it will help a lot of developers about how to contribute and how to deal with a new project or new library that you want to create. We have the chance to discuss a bit before the podcast, and you told me that you're collaborating on another open source project. You have the chance to, for example, to collaborate and to contribute to Kamal. Now it is
let's call it Kamal.
For example. So I want to ask you what is like to collaborating and contributing to open source software and Ruby gems. What this can bring you as a developer, and what can you bring to the community? What is your feeling, your general feeling about this?
Okay, so first of all, I call myself an occasional contributor. So I don't do this I don't do this regularly. I don't do this on some, I don't know, weekly basis. Like, I know people who say we work 4 days a week on our primary job and one day we work on some open source and some community stuff. No, I don't do this. I'm an occasional contributor. I only contribute when I found a problem, when I found that some library doesn't have functionalities that I need. And
Okay.
in this case, first of all, I fork it. I try to implement this functionality and to test it on my existing environment to understand that this feature really works, and if it will be, from my point of view, if it will be needed for other people, for other community, I try to create a pull request. So this is how it works for me. And no, I don't try to find. I don't. So another approach is to find the projects that you like, find a list of issues on a GitHub, read all issues that this project has, and try to fix them. But this is not about me. I just don't have time to do this, and I don't like to focus on one project and work only on one project. It's just not fun. For me, open source is always should be fun. And what I do, like 3 years ago, I used Crystal. You know, this language that has syntax similar to Ruby, but it is strictly typed and compiled. Yes. And I used Crystal in one of my projects, and since it's very similar to Ruby, I tried to use presence method on a string and new class, and I found that Crystal lacks presence. And I just forked Crystal compiler, implemented presence, because it's very easy to implement new methods in Crystal classes, because Crystal compiler is also written in Crystal. And since I'm a Ruby programmer, I can read Crystal well. And I implemented presence and created a pull request to a Crystal compiler. And they merged it. I said, wow, I'm not only a library contributor, I'm a programming language contributor now. And it's amazing. So when you find something that doesn't exist in the projects that you use now, the first thing that you should do, you should not go to a project owner and say, hey guy, I need this, implement this now because I want to use it in my project. No, this is the wrong way. You should fork it, you should implement it, and then try to pull request. And believe me, this will bring you fun and just new experiences compared to what you had before.
Okay, so the best approach is to not reading all the issues and trying to solve things just to be an open source contributor, even if people do whatever they want, and if they want to do that, they can do that. But the best approach to you, from your point of view, is to solve the issue that you have and in your language or framework. And it will be much funnier because you will contribute to some, not just a user, but also a contributor to the tools that you use.
Yeah, exactly. Like 3 or 4 months ago, I started to use Kamal or MERS because we just need to mention that 2 days ago, MERS has been renamed to Kamal. And somewhere in spring, I started to use Kamal. And I understand that I can make my builds and my deployments faster just by using build cache from Docker.
Okay.
Again, I forked Kamal, implemented build cache, opened pull request, got a pull request review from DHH. Getting reviews from such people like DHH or other experienced programmers always makes you better engineer, better programmer, because they give you it just makes you better, believe me. And I got review from DHH. He said, wow, it's great, but you should redo this and that. I quickly improved everything and pushed new comments to Kamal repository, and they merged it. And I say, wow, great, now I solved my problem. I made my builds faster, made deployments better, and I also solved the similar problem for quite a lot of people in Camel
Yeah.
community.
It sounds like even with the time and even with the fact that you've contributed to a lot of projects, each time that your PR are merged, it's a great feeling, and it's a really
Yes.
something that you love, and you're like, yeah, I have contributed to something that I love and I use.
Exactly. And you say, wow. And you just start typing all your colleagues and say, look. DHH made a comment to my PR. They merged it. They released it. And wow. It's so great. It's such a great feeling. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, it was a great discussion about open source. But I would like to come back to your gym because we are also here for
Okay.
that, Wiselink, and
Yes.
I would like to know from your point of view what was the main technical challenge. What was the main technical challenge from your point of view?
Okay, so at least in 2023, it may sound strange, but again, 10 years ago, not all browsers had APIs that actually work in all browsers. So we had in 2010, we had a history API in all major browsers, but it just worked differently in all in each one. And now when you use TurboLink or any other library, similar library like HTMX or something, you use browser history API. You just push new state. When user clicks a link, you push new state to a history API, and it replaces a URL in your browser. So approach is very simple and concept is very simple, but it just worked differently 10 years ago in all major browsers, and we had to adapt our solution to each browser and to make it work at least in Chrome, in Firefox, Opera was a popular browser 10 years ago.
Yes.
And also Internet Explorer existed. So it was and we used third-party library that is called history.js, and a lot of problems were somewhere between our solution and this history.js solution. And if you will open the repository on GitHub now, you will see that there are a long list of issues that still exists in my gem, and a lot of them, and it took really a lot of time to understand where is the issue, in history.js or in TurboLinks or somewhere else. I don't know. So when your gem becomes popular, you got so many problems. I will say problems, because it takes a lot of time to understand what is going on in each particular case, and it takes even more time to solve each problem. And when you don't face these issues, but your users face them, you often say, okay, but it works for me. Why should I fix it? It works for me, and I don't face these issues, and everything is good for me. But someone faces, but why should I just spend my time to understand what is going on in his case? I don't want it. And this is what happens with a lot of projects, really.
Yes, but when you develop a gem and you make it open source, it is also one of the thing that you have to do. It is maintain it, because
yes,
it will be never popular and will be never used if it's not maintained. That's for sure.
Yes, and this is what I said before. Besides creating a Ruby gem, you should also create a community. You should also start to involve more people to this solution. And again, what I said before, at least for me now, it's always better to contribute to something existing compared to starting something new. Okay?
Yes.
Because existing solution already have a community. They already have a list of users, a list of contributors, and you don't need to care about this. You just do your job. You make this solution better. You don't have to care about building this new community around your library. The biggest issue, non-technical issue, is to find time and find your internal let's call it strengths to start solving issues that you don't face.
Creating this community, it is a real hard stuff to do, because creating engagement and engage with people and make them maybe understand or love your work is not easy. Okay, super cool. Thanks. It's really clear. But I have a last question for you for this about this gym and all your open source collaboration. What are you the most proud of today?
Again, we already touched this theme a bit. When my pull request is merged to some library, I always, again, just believe me, I always start typing to my colleagues and to my friends and say, look, they merged it. Now it's now it can be used by others. It's really great feeling when you contribute to something existing, really, because it's always a challenge to contribute to existing solution. You should follow community rules. You should follow code style. You should follow, even when you open a pull request and write a pull request description, you should also follow this existing solution style to make your pull request look like other pull requests. It always takes a lot of, at least for me, it always takes a lot of time to prepare a really good pull request that will explain everything that I've done, make it 100% understandable to other contributors. And when it got merged, it's really I don't know, like some kind of a holiday, or at least I can say wow, yeah, we've done it, and now it's a part of something big or not so big, but it's very fun. Believe me, you will feel it each time your work got merged to some existing code base.
Okay, thank you, Igor. It was a real pleasure to talk about open source software today with you, and it was a great pleasure to understand your point of view about open source software and what joy this can bring to your life. And so make PR and try to solve problems that you face, and you will be really happy. Trust Igor. Yeah, thank you for taking the time to be with us today on this podcast.
Thank you, Lucas.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for all the auditors, the listeners of this podcast. First episode in English. Like I've said, it's not an easy exercise, but it's cool to have a lot of people all around the world talk with them, and talk with Igor, which is in Georgia. We understand our not so good English maybe, but we understand each other, and it's a really cool things. We can build a community.
Yeah, sorry, I was a bit nervous before this recording, because I always feel nervous when I speak English in public, but I think we've done quite good. So
yeah, we've done quite good. Totally agree with you, and it's cool that we can build a worldwide community with Ruby and Rails. Thank you to everybody that listened to this podcast. See you for the next episode. I do not know yet who will be the next invitee, but I will keep you up to date on the social media. So do not hesitate to follow us on Twitter, for example. What is your Twitter, Igor?
My Twitter handle is Igor_Alexandrov. So I believe you will be able to post it to description of this episode or somewhere.
Yeah. And thank you to everybody. See you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day, Igor. Bye.